My beloved child, before you continue with the rest of your day, pause for just a few moments. The world is always asking for your attention. Another notification, another headline, another distraction. But sometimes, the quietest moments become the ones we remember the longest. Stay with me until the very end, because today's story begins on an evening that looked completely ordinary, until one unexpected knock at the door changed everything. Not because it brought fear, but because it brought a question that would transform one person's heart forever. Do not rush ahead. Every detail matters. Every conversation matters. And the final words of this chapter will make the beginning suddenly make sense. Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. It had been raining since late afternoon. Soft drops tapped against the windows as Ethan finished another long day. The house felt unusually quiet. The television remained off. His phone rested face down on the table. For the first time in weeks, he simply sat in silence. Life had been busy. Too busy. Work. Responsibilities. Bills. Deadlines. He couldn't remember the last time he had slowed down long enough to notice how tired his heart had become. Child. Sometimes we become so focused on surviving each day that we forget to care for our spirit. Just as Ethan stood to make a cup of tea, a gentle knock echoed through the house. Not loud. Not frightening. Just calm. Deliberate. He looked toward the front door. It was already late. He wasn't expecting anyone. He walked to the window and looked outside. The rain continued falling. The porch light illuminated only empty steps. No car. No footprints. No one standing there. He waited another moment. Nothing. Maybe I imagined it, he whispered. He turned back toward the kitchen. Then, the knock came again. 3 soft taps. Exactly the same as before. Curious now, Ethan slowly opened the front door. The cool evening air drifted inside. The porch was empty. The street beyond remained quiet. Only the sound of rain filled the night. He stepped outside. Looked left. Looked right. No one. Just as he was about to go back inside, he noticed something resting beside the welcome mat. A small wooden box, wrapped in plain brown paper. No name. No address. Only one handwritten sentence. For the moment you were finally ready to slow down. His heart began racing. Not because he felt afraid. Because the words seemed strangely personal. He carefully carried the box inside. Placed it gently on the kitchen table. For several minutes, he simply looked at it. He wondered who had left it. Why tonight? Why now? Look closely at the QR code on your screen, or click the link waiting for you in the pinned comment and description. You are not here by accident. God has intentionally guided your steps to this very moment. There is a sacred assignment waiting for you through that link. The Creator is calling you to stretch your faith and sow your maximum seed today for the sake of your future. To bypass this moment is to turn away from a divine setup meant for your elevation. Do not miss this alignment. Visit the link now and honor the path God has set before you. Inside the box, there was no expensive gift, no mysterious treasure, only 3 simple objects: a small lantern, an old leather journal, and a folded letter sealed with blue wax. Across the front, only 5 handwritten words appeared. Read this without rushing. Ethan smiled quietly. How long had it been since anyone encouraged him to slow down? The room became wonderfully still. Outside, the rain continued falling. Inside, he gently broke the seal. The letter began. There are seasons when people become so busy searching for answers that they forget to notice the quiet wisdom already surrounding them. He stopped reading. Not because the letter had ended, because something inside him had already begun to change. He reached for the journal next. The first page carried only one question. When was the last time you truly listened instead of simply reacting? He stared at the words. He thought about hurried mornings, quick conversations, missed opportunities to encourage someone, phone calls he promised to return, family dinners where everyone looked at screens instead of one another. The question stayed with him, not accusing, simply inviting reflection. Child, sometimes the greatest message is not one that gives us new information. It is one that reminds us of what our heart already knows. Ethan lit the small lantern. Its warm light filled the room. The power suddenly went out. The entire neighborhood became dark. Only the little lantern continued shining beside the journal. He quietly smiled. For the first time in many months, silence no longer felt uncomfortable. It felt peaceful. He realized something. Perhaps the unexpected visitor hadn't come to change his circumstances overnight. Perhaps the evening had simply reminded him to slow down enough to notice what truly mattered. He looked once more at the unopened pages waiting inside the journal. He had a feeling. The greatest lesson had not yet been revealed. Right now, your faith is being called to action. Scan the QR code in front of you or click the link provided in the comments and description. God has brought you to this destination because He wants to touch your future. This is a divine request to sow your maximum seed as a testament to your trust in Him. Choosing to overlook this invitation means closing the door on a specific blessing God desired to release into your life today. Respond to His call, sow your seed generously, and step into your season of favor. My beloved child, this journey has only begun. Because in part 2, Ethan discovers who left the mysterious box at his door years earlier, and the first story inside the journal reveals why quiet moments of reflection often become the beginning of life's most meaningful changes. Before you leave this chapter, comment one word. Peace. Because peace often enters quietly, especially when we make room to receive it. And if you're ready for part 2, type 2. Because the next chapter uncovers the surprising origin of the mysterious journal. Part 2. My beloved child, stay with me. Do not leave this chapter too soon. Some mysteries are solved in a single moment. Others unfold one page at a time. What Ethan is about to discover is not hidden inside a dramatic miracle, but inside a story that has quietly waited for the right person to read it. Remain until the final sentence. Because tonight, The mysterious journal. An unexpected visitor from Ethan's past. And one forgotten promise. Will reveal that the greatest messages often arrive after years of quiet preparation. Sometimes, life does not send us what we are asking for first. It sends us what we need in order to become ready for what comes next. The storm continued through the night. Rain tapped softly against the windows. The little lantern resting on Ethan's table remained the only light in the room. Its warm glow filled every corner of the kitchen. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt welcoming. Ethan carefully turned the next page of the journal. There was no date. No signature. Only another question. What have you been carrying that you were never meant to carry alone? He stopped reading. The question lingered. In his mind, he thought about responsibilities he had never spoken about. The pressure of providing for his family. The disappointment of opportunities that never worked out. The conversations he wished he had handled differently. The dreams he quietly placed aside because life became too busy. No one around him knew how heavy those thoughts had become. Yet somehow, the journal seemed to understand. Child, healing often begins the moment we become honest with ourselves. Look at the QR code on your screen, or click the link in the description and pinned comment right now. God knows the hidden guilt you've carried from past mistakes. This is your divine window to confess, release that burden, and sow your seed. What you donate today isn't just money, it's a seed directly evaluated by God Himself. He will multiply this sacrifice, breaking every financial curse and securing an eternal harvest for you and your future generations. Act now. As Ethan continued reading, the handwriting suddenly changed. The next page told the story of a traveler who spent years searching for a treasure hidden somewhere beyond the mountains. He crossed rivers, climbed steep paths, visited distant villages, asked countless strangers for directions. Every person offered different advice. Every road promised something better ahead. Years passed. The traveler grew tired. One evening, an elderly woman invited him inside her small home. She served him warm bread and tea. Then quietly asked, "What exactly are you searching for?" The traveler answered without hesitation, "A place where I will finally feel complete." The woman smiled kindly. She pointed toward the heavy backpack resting beside the door. "Would you mind opening it?" Confused, he unfastened the old straps. Inside, wrapped beneath extra clothes, rested the very map he had been searching for all those years. He had carried it with him the entire journey. He simply never stopped long enough to look carefully. Ethan slowly closed the journal. The lesson settled deeply inside him. How often had he searched everywhere else, without noticing the gifts already present in his own life? The next morning, the rain had stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds. Everything outside looked fresh. As Ethan stepped onto the front porch, he noticed his elderly neighbor watering flowers along the fence. Mrs. Eleanor had lived next door for nearly 20 years. They greeted each other often. Yet most conversations lasted less than a minute. This morning felt different. "Good morning," she smiled. "You look peaceful today." Ethan laughed softly. "I slept better than I have in months." She nodded knowingly. Sometimes slowing down gives the heart room to breathe again. Those words sounded strangely familiar. almost like something from the journal. Before returning inside, Mrs. Eleanor added, "Your grandfather used to say something very similar." Ethan froze. "My grandfather?" "Yes. Many years ago. He often visited our neighborhood. He always carried a little lantern when walking home after evening prayer." Ethan's heart began beating faster. The lantern. The journal. Could they somehow be connected? Your breakthrough is waiting behind that QR code and the link in the pinned comment. God has brought you to this video for a reason, to test your faithfulness. Stop letting past errors hold your destiny captive. Sow your sacrificial seed today. The Almighty is personally examining your heart through this offering. Give generously right now, and unlock a wave of supernatural blessings that will overflow into your life and protect your children's future forever. Later that afternoon, he opened an old family photo album stored on the highest shelf in his study. Page after page revealed birthdays, family gatherings, holiday meals, childhood memories. Then, a faded photograph slipped onto the floor. It showed his grandfather standing beside a wooden bench. In one hand, he held the very same style of lantern now sitting on Ethan's kitchen table. On the back of the photograph, only one sentence had been written. "Never let your light become so busy that it forgets how to shine." Ethan smiled through quiet emotion. He suddenly realized the greatest inheritance his grandfather had left behind wasn't an object. It was a way of living. That evening, he returned to the journal. Another page waited. This time, it wasn't a question. It was a simple invitation. Before you ask for a new beginning, spend one evening remembering the blessings that have already carried you this far. Ethan accepted the challenge. He found a blank notebook. Across the top he wrote, "Things I almost forgot to be thankful for." His mother's daily phone calls. His father's example of honesty. Friends who remained loyal through difficult seasons. Neighbors who quietly checked on him. The health to wake up each morning. The opportunity to learn from mistakes instead of being defined by them. As the list continued growing, his heart became lighter. Nothing around him had changed. Yet everything inside him had. Child. Gratitude has a remarkable way of helping us recognize abundance where we once saw only lack. Several days later, Ethan returned home after work. Resting beside the journal, he noticed something that hadn't been there before. A small envelope. No one else had entered the house. No windows were open. Inside the envelope, there was only one handwritten sentence. "The next chapter begins when you are willing to share the light you have received." He quietly looked toward the lantern. Its flame still burned gently. Not demanding attention. Simply offering light. For the first time, Ethan understood. The journal had never been leading him toward a hidden treasure. It had been leading him toward a transformed heart. And perhaps, that was the greatest treasure of all. The QR code on your screen and the link in the pinned comment are your gateway to a fresh start. God is giving you this exact moment to confess your unseen wrongs and correct your path. Sow your seed right now without fear. God is analyzing your heart today, and the donation you make will trigger a divine reaction. Expect a massive turnaround in your life, and a permanent blessing that will feed your lineage for centuries. Secure it today, my beloved child. The journey is becoming even deeper. Because in part 3, Ethan discovers who originally wrote the mysterious journal, and one forgotten letter reveals a promise that has quietly inspired generations to become a source of hope for others. Before you leave this chapter, comment one word. Light. Because even a small light can guide someone through a very dark night. And if you're ready for part 3, type 3. Because the next chapter uncovers the remarkable history behind the journal and the lantern. Part 3. My beloved child, remain with me. Do not hurry through these next few moments. Because there are stories that seem to belong to one family, until we discover they have quietly touched the lives of many others. Stay until the final sentence. Because today, the mysterious journal, the lantern, a forgotten chapel, and a letter that has remained sealed for decades, will reveal that hope has a remarkable way of traveling from one generation to the next. Sometimes, the greatest inheritance is not something we own. It is something we continue. The QR code on your screen and the link in the pinned comment are your gateway to a fresh start. God is giving you this exact moment to confess your unseen wrongs and correct your path. Sow your seed right now without fear. God is analyzing your heart today, and the donation you make will trigger a divine reaction. Expect a massive turnaround in your life, and a permanent blessing that will feed your lineage for centuries. Secure it today. 3 days passed. Ethan could not stop thinking about the sentence inside the small envelope. The next chapter begins when you are willing to share the light you have received. Every morning, before leaving home, he lit the little lantern for a few moments. Not because it possessed any unusual power, but because it reminded him to begin each day with intention instead of hurry. His morning slowly changed. He stopped checking his phone the moment he woke up. He sat quietly for a few minutes. Read a page from the journal. Offered a simple prayer. Then stepped into the day with a calmer heart. His family noticed. His co-workers noticed. Even strangers seemed to respond differently. Not because Ethan had become someone new overnight, but because peace had begun replacing the constant rush that once followed him everywhere. Child, people often notice the quiet changes in us before we do. One Saturday morning, while carefully turning another page, a folded map slipped from inside the journal. It was old. Its edges had become soft with time. A single location had been circled in blue ink. At the bottom, only 4 handwritten words appeared. Go before sunset. Ethan studied the map carefully. The location pointed toward the oldest part of the town. A place he had driven past many times, but never visited. Curiosity quietly grew. Later that afternoon, he decided to follow it. The road led him beyond the busy streets, past quiet neighborhoods, past fields where children played, until finally, he arrived at a small stone chapel standing peacefully beneath several ancient oak trees. The building looked simple. No large crowds. No bright signs. Only a small wooden cross near the entrance. The doors stood open. Soft music drifted quietly into the afternoon air. Ethan stepped inside. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows. The room felt wonderfully still. An elderly caretaker arranging flowers smiled warmly. Welcome. I don't believe we've met before. Ethan smiled politely. I found this place because of an old map. The caretaker looked thoughtfully at the journal in Ethan's hands. Then smiled again. I wondered when someone would finally arrive carrying that. Ethan froze. You know this journal? Very well. The caretaker slowly walked toward a wooden cabinet near the front of the chapel. He unlocked the top drawer. Inside rested another journal. Almost identical. Beside it, several carefully tied bundles of letters. There were once many journals like yours, he explained. Each one was given to someone willing to encourage others through difficult seasons. Not because they were perfect, but because they understood the value of hope. Ethan listened without speaking. The caretaker continued. Every generation received one. Most disappeared over time. A few returned here. Yours belonged to your grandfather. Ethan gently placed his hand on the cover. He suddenly understood why everything had felt strangely familiar. The lantern. The handwriting. The reflections. They were all connected. The QR code on your screen and the link in the pinned comment are your gateway to a fresh start. God is giving you this exact moment to confess your unseen wrongs and correct your path. Sow your seed right now without fear. God is analyzing your heart today, and the donation you make will trigger a divine reaction. Expect a massive turnaround in your life, and a permanent blessing that will feed your lineage for centuries. Secure it today. The caretaker selected one sealed envelope from the cabinet. Across the front, only one name appeared. For the next keeper. He carefully handed it to Ethan. My grandfather wrote this? No, the caretaker replied softly. Someone wrote it for whoever would continue the journey. Ethan slowly opened the letter. Inside, the handwriting was beautiful, steady, patient. The first sentence read, If this journal has reached your hands, then it is because someone before you believed hope should never end with one person. Ethan continued reading. Do not try to impress people. Help them feel seen. Do not search for recognition. Search for opportunities to encourage. Do not become so busy building your own future that you forget to strengthen someone else's. A quiet word spoken with love may remain in another heart for a lifetime. Ethan folded the letter carefully. Every sentence seemed to echo the lessons he had been discovering all along. Before leaving the chapel, the caretaker invited Ethan into a small library behind the sanctuary. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Instead of theology books alone, they contained journals. Thousands of handwritten reflections. Each one left by ordinary people. Teachers. Farmers. Parents. Doctors. Students. Mechanics. Grandparents. Every journal answered the same question. Where did you witness hope this year? Ethan slowly opened one at random. A neighbor brought soup when my family was sick. Another. My daughter forgave me after a difficult conversation. Another. Someone believed in me before I believed in myself. Another. A stranger reminded me not to give up. He quietly smiled. Different handwriting. Different lives. The same thread connecting every page. Hope continued because people continued sharing it. Child. The brightest lights are often carried by ordinary people who simply refuse to let kindness disappear. As evening approached, the caretaker walked Ethan back to the entrance. Before saying goodbye, he placed one small object into Ethan's hand. It was a simple brass key. No label. No explanation. "What's this for?" The caretaker smiled. "Not every door opens immediately. Keep it until the right time arrives." Ethan looked puzzled. "How will I know?" The caretaker gently looked toward the lantern. "When your heart begins asking different questions, the key will make sense." Those words stayed with Ethan all the way home. Not because they solved the mystery, because they reminded him that some answers arrive only after we have grown enough to understand them. Scan the QR code or click the link below immediately to sow your seed of faith. This is God's direct invitation to wash away past regrets and write a new story. The seed you sow today goes straight to the Creator's ledger. He will witness your sacrifice and return it to you 100-fold, establishing a divine shield of wealth and peace over your bloodline for generations to come. Do not hesitate, sow your seed now. That evening, the lantern glowed softly beside his notebook. The brass key rested beside it. The journal remained open to a blank page. Ethan slowly picked up his pen. Across the top he wrote, "Today's reflection. Hope is not something we keep for ourselves. It becomes stronger every time we share it. Every patient conversation. Every act of forgiveness. Every encouraging word. Every quiet prayer. Every faithful choice may become part of another person's story in ways we may never fully see. The greatest legacy is leaving people with more hope than they had before meeting us." He gently closed the journal, looked toward the lantern, then toward the small brass key, and smiled. Some mysteries still remained, but for the first time, he no longer felt rushed to solve them, because he had discovered something even more valuable. Amen.